Good afternoon, everyone. We are interrupting regularly programming to bring you a live news conference.
And this is an announcement about rape accusations in Maryville, Missouri, a case which garnered national attention. We were expecting Jackson County Prosecutor Gene Peters Baker. This is the attorney in that case. We'll listen in and see who we hear from.
Accurately reflects the conduct for which he should be held accountable. Two highly skilled prosecutors from two different jurisdictions have now independently concluded that felony charges are not appropriate in this matter. Further, there's absolutely no evidence that political favoritism played a role in the decision of either prosecutor. Mr. Barnett truly regrets the actions to which he has pled guilty. He'll now focus on fulfilling the terms of his plea agreement. Because Mr. Barnett and his family desire to bring closure to this matter and to all the parties involved, they do not intend to comment any further. I very much appreciate your courtesies. I do have copies of that statement as well as the plea agreement and the associated conditions. I don't know if I have enough copies, but I'll have a few I'll pass out.
Mr. Hobbs, what can you tell us about the apology that Mr. Barnett shared?
That was a condition of the plea agreement, and it's been sincerely and faithfully exercised.
Can you tell us what he said in that apology?
I don't think that would be appropriate.
Did he make a verbal apology to the victim or just to the prosecutor?
It's to the victim through the prosecutor.
And it was verbal to his
It was to the victim through the prosecutor.
Regardless of what you say right now.
Cell phone video of this incident?
I'm not going to discuss the evidence in any detail other than we are satisfied after a full investigation that the charges to which Mr. Barnett has pled guilty accurately reflect the conduct to which he should be held accountable.
Regardless of what you say here before the mics, there's going to be some strong reaction for people who don't live in this town, people who haven't followed every step. What do you have to say to skeptics?
This is another example where the rule of law has been fairly applied. Ms. Baker and her office are highly skilled, highly ethical, and so is Mr. Rice and his office. And again, two skilled prosecutors have looked at the investigation, they've looked at the reinvestigation, they've looked at the discovery, and the agreement that's been reached is a fair resolution.
JR, under SCS, is his record wiped clean after he completes probation?
No, it is a conviction under Missouri law.
What does he do
Anybody else
now?
going to be charged in connection with this at all?
Pardon me?
Are you representing anybody else that was interviewed or accused in this case? Especially further?
I'm not, but I believe this completes the investigation.
The electronic footprint's going to follow him around. What does his family think about that? What happens to him now, given that footprint?
Again, the charge itself speaks for itself in terms of what the parties thought was a fair resolution. We can only hope that the readers will understand the time and energy that was given to this resolution. And I thank you very much.
Yeah, I didn't get a copy of that. You guys have it?
You're listening to Kansas City Attorney J.R. Hobbs representing Matthew Barnett. This is a contentious story that actually started 2 years ago yesterday regarding the rape of a young girl who was 14 at the time. Her name is Daisy Coleman. It was the alleged rape of her. We see Gene Peters Baker coming out. We'll see if she's going to make a statement now as well. Again, this is a story that's we've been following for about 2 years now.
Yeah, and it was October just this past year that she was actually placed as the special prosecutor in this case to independently investigate that, which you heard Barnett's attorney referencing, and we were expecting to hear from her, and now she seems to be at the podium. Let's listen to what she has to say.
Thank you, everyone, for coming today and joining us here in Nottoway County. I got just a few brief comments for you, and then I'll take a few questions, and then we're going to head home. So first, I want to tell you that today for Nottoway County, for the citizens of this town in Maryville, this is a good day. It is an opportunity for this town to heal. But what this day is really about is a very, very young victim. And one of the things we generally get to offer victims through this process is their anonymity. And I intend to do that today and try and restore that today. I'm not sure, of course, that can happen, but I will not be referring to this young woman by name out of respect for that goal for her anonymity. So, at the very heart of this case is this very young girl. And she has been at the heart of my concern, and she has been at the heart of this investigation throughout the case. You heard, some of you may have heard in the courtroom that I stated that the victims did make a statement. They are supportive of this plea agreement, and that is the victim herself and her mother. They are represented by an attorney, John O'Connor. I've spoken with Mr. O'Connor multiple times, and I have, of course, spoken with the mother and her young daughter, and they are both supportive. I'm going to read a statement from them now, but we are going to provide you copies of that statement as well. And this is from the young victim. I want to thank everyone who supported me and my family during these past 2 years. Your support has meant so much to me. Today, I am grateful that the defendant took responsibility by pleading guilty to the charges. I am ready to move forward. To all of those who supported me, I promise that what happened on January the 8th of 2012 will not define me forever. From her mother, this is her statement. I wanted to be present today for this hearing, but have chosen to be with my daughter. I hope that today's resolution of this criminal case brings some closure for my family, especially my children, and for the community. All of us need to come together in a more positive way. So let me talk a little bit quickly. I know you're sitting out here in the cold and you got to witness part of what happened. So let me talk about procedure. Today, Mr. Burnett was held accountable for his actions. He pled guilty to endangering the welfare of a child in the second degree. And what that means in this particular case is that it is a conviction. It will remain on his record, and it will never go away. There were several special conditions of his probation, but a couple that I want to highlight that I believe are important is that he has to pay a substantial amount of restitution to this young gal, and I'm going to be the one that monitors that along with the probation officer to make sure that she is getting appropriate mental health treatment services. He is going to provide 100 hours of community service, and before we allowed this plea agreement to happen today, there was one plea condition that had to be satisfied, and that was to Mr. Luna and I, who is a chief trial assistant in my office, there had to be a tendering of an apology, an acknowledgement of his wrongdoing, and an actual apology for his conduct. Of course, that is not to us. We are the individuals who received that apology, and at the appropriate time, on the appropriate day, I will convey that apology to the young victim in this case. A couple other things that I want to bring to your attention. Of course, some of you are probably going to ask me, there were no sex charges. Why is that? So, as a prosecutor, I am telling you I stand here by my oath always. And my job is to analyze evidence. In this case, there was insufficient evidence to go forward on a sexual assault. So in this case, every case, it boils down to the evidence, but that's what this case boiled down to, the evidence in the case file, the evidence that I poured through, that is the evidence from the Nottoway County Sheriff's file, from the previous prosecutor's file, and from our own investigation that we have launched in this case. I think the important thing for you to note about that is that our system of justice works because it is evidence-based. We don't always like the outcome, but it is evidence-based and therefore it works. I trust this system. I believe in this system. It is not always a system where we can triumph, the outcome. But this is an outcome. It is a good day. It's a day that protects this young victim from having to go into this very courtroom and testify, not just through my questions, but of course by defense counsel's questions. And that's a hard task. It's one that we were willing and able to do, but this is the outcome that we believe was the right and just outcome in this case. So I'm going to take a few questions from you.
Ms. Peters, what conclusions should the public draw about the victim's credibility based on this outcome?
You should draw this conclusion. This case was a legal analysis. That is my job. It is a legal analysis, and so that is where your attention should be drawn. That was my job, is to review the evidence, and that's what I did.
You could have pursued a felony charge of child endangerment, which would have been knowingly placing her in harm. Instead, you went for the misdemeanor criminal negligence. Why not the felony?
You know, we had a lot of discussion about that, and of course, to get to this agreement today, this has been an ongoing discussion with defense counsel for well over a month. We have been working hard toward what charge we were going to level in this case. The felony is certainly was on the table, which is why we are here. Our analysis was, after a long trial and after very possibly further dividing a community, we were going to end up with a misdemeanor conviction of what we have right now.
The former prosecutor said the family wasn't cooperative, and that was part of the reason he didn't pursue charges. Did you find the family fully cooperative, or was their dealings in this one of the reasons why we didn't go after the sex charges?
Well, let me say a couple of things about that. One, the victims in this case, the victim and her mother, were very cooperative. They worked with me. They helped me walk through the evidence, and we had many discussions throughout the course of my appointment to this case since October of last year. You know, to speak further about what happened prior to that, I cannot speak to that. I was not there. I was not part of the case then, so I don't know. So my analysis was they were supportive of getting to this result today.
And you talk about your analysis of the evidence. You obviously got this case many months after it was first alleged, first investigated. Based on the evidence that you got, was the evidence that you got at all hampered by that time lag? Was there evidence that maybe if you would handle this case from the beginning, that you would have had or been able to accumulate or gotten that was not in the case file that was eventually handed over to you?
Well, that's that leads me down a path of doing some hypotheses that I'm not willing to do. I had the evidence I had. It was, when I received the case, we were well past, any kind of anniversary dates here. And as of yesterday was the 2-year anniversary of this horrible night for this victim. So, you can take what you will from that.
This victim is in
Bob Rice, does this vindicate his decision, which was pursuing the same charge that you ended up with?
That will be your analysis to make. Anybody else?
The victim is in the hospital. Her mother told us she was in the hospital.
I'm not going to speak to that and to her present condition. I think that is inappropriate for me to do so.
When did the defendant know he was going to be arrested and charged with this crime, and when did you speak with the victim? If I could know as well.
I'm sorry?
When was the defendant informed that he was going to be arrested on this charge, and when did you speak to the victim about the plea agreement?
It's not been a single discussion. It's been multiple discussions. They've been in my office, and we've also talked by phone. This plea discussion has been going on for at least a month, and I've had multiple conversations with this family during that period of time.
The sexual exploitation charge wasn't refiled. Is the reasoning behind that?
There's no evidence. We tried to obtain the video, and that video, we were unsuccessful in obtaining that video. So without that, there is no charge there. Anyone else? I'm sorry?
About the evidence, the rape kit, did you find
that? Is part of the evidence. The rape kit is part of the evidence, yes. I reviewed that.
Closed against not only him, but other people that were involved, like the one who just closed the video. He's closed.
I believe that, yes, the case is closed regarding Mr. Zeke, who had been originally charged, and obviously against Mr. Barnett. Anyone else?
Yeah, did the involvement of any of these outside groups who crowdsourced this investigation end up having any effect at all on how you went through it? No. Our job is our job, and it's always going to be our job. And so whatever kind of pressure we get is the pressure we get. And my job is to be as tone deaf to that as I possibly can and do my job to the best of my ability and my oath. And that's what we did today, is to bring this result today. I think it's a just result. It's the right result. And I think we're getting probably cold and close to a final question. Anybody else?
Moving down on the apology.
Timeline, did you reach this decision on the plea deal before Daisy's recent suicide attempt?
As I said, we have been in discussions regarding this plea agreement for well over a month. So that we have had that discussion weeks ago.
And regarding the apology, did you like tape record something and give to us? Like, can you give any of the substance?
The substance I'm willing to give you, that was a private conversation. I do intend to keep it private, and it is and not discuss it further, because that is something, of course, that Mr. Luna and I will go deliver to the young victim in this case when she is ready to receive it. It was genuine, and I'm going to tell you that I believed it was genuine, and I believed it was heartfelt, and I accepted that so that we could go forward with this plea agreement.
I guess I was just curious, how is he getting it? Are you all going to speak it to him, or was there some recording made from it?
It was made orally to us through a law office today.
I have copies of press releases. I have the victim's statements that was entered into the record today. Just take, if you can, some. Yes, I have the victim's statements too. So. Here you go, Mike.
Okay, and so just to finally follow up. I would employ everyone here today. There's a lot of cameras. There's a lot of reporters here today. I would implore each of you to give this young victim her opportunity to heal, her opportunity to create a new narrative for herself and to write a new chapter in her life. She can do that, and I implore you to give her that opportunity to do that. So thank you very much. We appreciate you all being here today.
Thank you.